CM University, we're here with a really special guest, and I appreciate he's made time for us today. This is an individual who's got a tremendous amount of hands-on experience delivering masculinity coaching alongside D. So he's an OG of OGs who's been really instrumental through many, many years, shaping the holistic nature of what we do, giving this movement a very deep foundation of health, of biology, of just stretching the intellectual horizons of the work we're doing today. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, Ravi. I go by Coach Kai, or you call me Kai, and I've known Dee for a very long time because my journey towards self-improvement or personal improvement, I came from a different place. And eventually, as people do, all the people who are actually involved with any type of improvement, self-type improvement, whether it will be more on the health side like me, the dating side, the masculinity side, anything else that you could actually think of in terms of just personal growth, we're going to eventually find ourselves in the same type of circles because we're going to eventually find the same type of forums and we come together, right? And Coach D and I, we met, we hit it off, and I've known him for a very, very long time, even pre-COVID times. And it's been a very beautiful relationship. I think we both contributed to our growth in our own way. I've definitely been harping on him about health and fitness, which I think he's finally begun to, do something with, and he's been looking great. He's kind of harped on me on how to develop my masculinity so I could actually stand out and stand my ground. Believe it or not, I wasn't that guy. I was that nervous nanny that if you were to meet me 7 or 8 years ago, you would think that I was a very different person from who I am today. And, the level of confidence that I've been able to develop through just personal growth, it's just even when I were to kind of do introspection, and this is something that I speak to some of the people that I coach on the health side about, is how to introspect, right? Right. People always think, hey, I haven't improved. But when you really look at all the work that you've done and you kind of go back to the way you were and the nervousness that you have in front of people, in front of like a working crowd, you're in office giving speech, you're in front of several women you're probably interested in, right, in the dating life, right? Or anything else of that matter, people tend to have a bit of nervousness. And I was a guy who was extremely nervous. I'm the one who would choke. I would literally choke in the middle of my sentences, right? I would forget what I was saying because I was so too nervous. I would ramble, right? Which is a big tell in terms of nervousness when someone just rambles without knowing exactly what they're actually speaking about. So I did all those things, right? But what was key about me is that I was actually aware of it. The problem is a lot of men out there, or even some women, just are not able to kind of know that they have this issue. They're not in touch with themselves to know that, hey, there is a deficiency that I have to fix. Because it hurts, right? It hurts. The reason people don't introspect has to do with the fact that it bloody hurts, right? It hurts your ego. It hurts your self-esteem in the short run. And I always tell people, it's like introspection is a great thing for your psyche. The reason being is that I'll give you an analogy. If you go to the gym, it hurts your muscles. It hurts, right? If you do the gym properly, it bloody hurts.
Oh, yes.
But it's temporary. When you come out, you give yourself some rest. You give yourself a rest cycle, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is that you do, a couple of days, you come back stronger. And the same thing about introspection. Hey, I have a hard time and I choke up when I see a beautiful woman. What do? You speak to 1,000 beautiful women out there. Put yourself in places where you can be in front of beautiful women and try to talk to them. The first couple of 100 times, you're going to suck. But eventually, because you're facing your fears over and over again, and you keep on working on something, just like building muscle, right? Just like in the fitness world. If your muscle hurts, you're weak, you build that muscle by breaking the muscle cells, letting them rebuild stronger, right? That is what introspection does to the psyche of a human being.
Coach, I think why in particular that's powerful coming from you is your depth of knowledge of the transformational process. I want to just highlight that Coach Kai spent in-person, in-field time, hands-on with hundreds of men, right? Doing the deeper developmental work, thinking of why are they having this experience, not just across their social skills, their presentation, but actually digging into their biology, their hormones, how their mitochondria is working. He's got a really holistic perspective on this. And the work that me and Dee do with CMU builds on this, is an extension of the many years that Kai and Dee spent in the trenches, I spent in the trenches, and we've kind of created an overall movement here. And one of the really powerful living embodiments of this is Coach Kai. An example of someone who, if you were to say, you don't present ever as someone who's ever been non-confident. Like anyone who's ever seen you, been around you, how you speak to people, how grounded you are, how present you are, there is no fucking nervousness or tension, level of piercing eye contact. And often, Coach, you'll say, well, you didn't meet me 8 years ago, right? And that's the powerful thing here. And a question I want to put to you is, if you can help us go back and understand what was going on with you and where were you in your life before you really committed to changing how you show up in your relationships and in your confidence?
Well, I mean, if I have to go back to my life journey, have to say it. I've had people say I've lived like 3 or 4 different lives. Without going too much into detail, my early childhood was in a civil war zone. So all I knew was gunfires and bombs being dropped and living in makeshift bunkers. That was like 2.5 years of my formative years. Like as a child, in those years, I didn't even have a chance to go to school sometimes. Schools would be very, very sporadic. I was thankful that, my parents were able to kind of teach me, homeschool me while in the bunkers so that I didn't actually miss out on my education. So that was one part of my life. Then I moved to the West. And then that was another struggle of trying to adapt to a new culture, right? And learning a new language and doing all of that stuff. That hits your confidence a lot, especially when you feel like you're less than other people. It definitely hits your confidence. And I didn't realize this until couple of years ago that, hey, like formative child years has a domino effect, a repercussion throughout your entire life, right? And I didn't know that this was the case. My teenage years wasn't too bad. I think I've had a pretty good teenage years, but then I get into college and to more of my body, and then a lot of more health problems started showing up.
Yeah.
So it felt like I barely had a break in my life, and then something else shows up. And I would say, if I were to say why was I nervous or why was I an anxious person, why wasn't I able to, move ahead a lot faster than other people who have the same level of drive as I do, I just didn't know what the hell was going on. And so what that actually led to was incredible amount of frustration. I was just an angry guy. Right. People still look at me and still think that I'm like an angry person. But you haven't met me 7 or 8 years ago. I was about to explode. The first time Coach D met me, it was a funny story because he told me it took us actually a few times of meeting through mutual friends before he was comfortable with me. Right. Because he told me that he just saw an intense level of anger in me, that I was about to explode. He was working on his own issues, that he didn't want to have this anger that I had affect him. So he kind of stayed away from me for a few months before he actually eventually got to know me and kind of really found out that, hey, it's like I definitely have anger issues, but it comes from a place of hurt, which is something that he was able to relate to. So, and, we developed a kinship that I think ever since then, it's kind of lasted till now. And, the guy's more like my brother than a friend. So I went through, again, even now that I still kind of struggle through the reason I'm kind of focused a lot on self-improvement and health is because I do have a severe amount of health issues that I have complete dominance over, right? There's only one thing that I'm working on right now, which has to do with, lack of sleep, which I will eventually have absolute control over. So with discipline and with introspection, whatever issues that you have in your life, you could dominate, right? Whether it's actually through health, right? When your health is actually not good, when I say health, let's just break down health for a second. Believe me, that actually includes mental health. Yeah. People completely underestimate that. People think that it's physiological health that actually affects you. No, your mental health affects you. If you had a bad family life, if you had a bad upbringing, forget about like growing up in a war zone. I did grow up in a war zone, but I have a nuclear family, right? My parents have been married for like, I don't know how many years now, right? So we don't have any major issues. So I have a very strong family foundation. But other people may not have that, and that could actually have a huge ramification on you. The amount of pressure as a child, you actually get has ramification on you. So a lot of these things will contribute to your self-confidence and your self-doubt, and that actually eventually leads you to, in the adult life, to be substandard compared to other people who actually do so much more well in a social circumstance, in a working circumstance, and especially when you're in work, there's always politics, especially in the office environment. If you don't know how to speak up and if you don't know how to stand your ground, and you're also fatigued and because all your health problems are in the way and your anxiety is getting in the way, people are going to just, like walk all over you. And has that happened to me? Absolutely. It has happened to me for many years. Only in the last several years, I would say in the 4 to 5 years, I've actually become the more of a dominant person. Right now, I've actually become a person who other people rely on. People have to call me to get answers, right? It's not like I didn't have those answers before. I had it, just I just didn't know how to communicate it well. I didn't know how to be confidently, um, you know, portray this information in a way that people could actually understand it.
Yeah, and coach, that's frankly why the work that we do is so important and powerful. These people have the ability, the talent. It, I believe, is there with so many of them. It's the childhood trauma, it's the dysfunctions, it's the humans are conditionable, right? Operant
Yes.
conditioning and neuroplasticity is happening as we're repeating the same behaviors. And when we're in like social contexts and situations where there's hierarchies and when there's in groups, we also have a part of us that has certain psychological needs, almost like to develop a healthy plant, it needs water, it needs sunlight, it needs these things. Humans have needs for being seen, being heard, feelings of safety. And when those core needs aren't actually being met, this is very dysfunctional.
Yes.
And we start to live in an elevated state of stress. And our brain starts to adapt to that because it will prioritize our survival. And if it's more efficient to be more vigilant and more, if you like, tense, then it will make the decision to build your personality that way. And the challenging thing there is that relationships and a lot of greatness and success, it comes from a state of calmness and stillness and low levels of stress hormones. And when we're living a life of tension and stress and anxiety, then we are very impulsive. Our ability to really think deeply and clearly is dictated by our prefrontal cortex, and that gets shut off when we're living in the amygdala and in fear. Hence, it's important that you speak up, that I speak up, that Dee speaks up, and that we use our platform and the movement we're going to build to say we take ownership of every part of our physiology in this movement. We use the term nervous system regulation, right? You will thrive when you have that deep level of peace within, and things will start to work for you, right? And oftentimes, I feel like it's more of the guys who had to go deep as you did, deep as I did, who will know this, because we've really been there and done that. So I suppose to kind of pivot off that, you talk a lot about masculinity and you'll talk about how a man, if he wants to reach his potential, it's really about locking in on health, wealth, and relationships, right? And taking ownership and, if you like, masculinity across all of these areas. So, if help us understand your perspective here. I think if I'm getting it right, and I might not be, so please help us understand. I think your argument is that if you really want to elevate to the next level, it's all of these things that you start to really raise your game to elevate your game in order to achieve in these areas. And it's almost like you're saying that's when you're going to find the best version of yourself. Am I getting you right? Am I doing you justice there? Help us understand.
This is exactly precise, and this is something that with the select people that I'm working through,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are core, what I like to call the core pillars in life, right? And this has been spoken of by different people throughout different times, and there are very select people who kind of recognize this and kind of have a structure for this, which is that, you have the three pillars, I would say, are your health, wealth, and people usually say relationships, but I like to call it love. Because why do I call it love? The reason I say that is because meaningful relationships matter, right? And the superfluous ones don't, right?
Yeah.
And this is very key. And I'm going to say this one more time. Meaningful relationships matter. The superfluous ones don't. Do not hold your acquaintances in high regard, right? Hold on to the people who are close to you, right? A lot more dear to you. Like there's a saying that which I completely disagree with. It's like, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I get that in a geopolitics, in a political situation. I understand that. But in your personal life, where there's no politics involved, there's no gains and there's no losses, right? You need to keep people who are going to contribute something to your life, right? Not monetarily, but emotionally, who are there for you, right? Even as simple as, Ravi, I'm moving in about 2 weeks. Can you come and help out? And are you there for me or not? Can you give me an hour of your time to help me move or not? It's like, hey, Ravi, I'm not actually here in the city. I have an important package coming around. Do you mind if I send it to your house? Can you keep that for me? Something, because now I trust you to receive something of mine, right? Simple stuff like that, right? I'm not getting anything out of this. If I do this for other people, I'm not getting anything out of this other than to help a friend out, right? just be there to just kind of support when, sometimes your friends are not able to move around, or your friends are sick. Are you there? Are you getting them medicine? Are you getting them food while they rest up? Simple stuff like that. Those are the type of people who do simple things, not people who actually buy you drinks at the bar or buy you expensive things. People who are there for the simple things and the best they could actually do. Because remember, the emotions and the vibes they actually put out is very, very important for the psyche, and that's a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people try to substitute that through money by spending money and trying to be cool. And there's someone in my family who actually kind of does that, who just tries to be cool and try to throw money around, but like it's not exactly there when things are needed. It's like after a while you'd be like, okay, I know that I can't exactly rely on this guy. He's kind of like in his own world, living his own life somewhere else, only there for the family in terms of coolness, but nothing else. So you have to be very careful of people like that. People who actually try too hard to be super cool and not like, down to earth. There are cool people out there who are down to earth. You just got to know how to find them. And be careful of like sociopaths and psychopaths who try to befriend you for their own purpose. But just be careful, because people who actually are in your orbit, they could be more dangerous for your psyche than some guy who's trying to steal your purse, who you don't even know.
They influence you. They influence your thought world. Their ideas kind of permeate you in many ways. Their limiting beliefs impact you. Hence why misery loves company in the world, and those who are complaining about their predicament rather than taking action tend to latch onto each other, and it's crabs in the barrel from there. And I think me and Dee would both stress the importance of quality relationships, and it's a core ethos of our program.
Yes.
To develop a man sufficiently where the emotional health is there, the social skills are there, the ability to properly bond, know people, build effective relationships, and also just having an overall successful and happy life, right? It's about the quality people that you want to attract, right?
Yes.
It's energy. It's almost like a level of consciousness that you're operating at.
Yes.
You're going to really resonate with people who are there, who are building things, who are doing things in the world, who are positive forces for change. These can give you incredible life impetus and elevate your life so much, which comes from depth, right? Which comes from, frankly, us doing the work on ourselves, right? So
I want to just touch on a few things. So that's just the meaningful relationship and quality relationships, right?
Yes.
And let's talk about the first two things that I spoke about. And this is where I have the more difficult time convincing people. But when it comes to health, the amount of work that you have to do is probably completely underestimated by a lot of people. Now, you touched on something very, very significant, and you briefly mentioned it, and which is something called neuroplasticity. A lot of people completely underestimate this, and you have no idea how that neuroplasticity is important for self-improvement. Because what is self-improvement? You're learning, you're teaching yourself how to do new things, which is learning. And how do you learn? And what is actually, part of the brain that actually allows you to learn? As you age, your neuroplasticity declines, right? So keeping your brain sharp is probably the number one step you have to actually do before you kind of embark on the self-improvement journey. A lot of people give up because they just don't learn and they don't see it, right? So this is where the health component actually becomes very, very important. And when we talk about neuroplasticity, what does that entail? All of the above. Proper nutrition. Okay, proper nutrition is a huge topic we could go into. Not your standard American diet or any type of standard diet of any nation. A proper diet is very scientific, and you have to actually figure out how that works for your own physiology. And having a proper workout program, and you're actually in the gym 3 to 4 times a week,
yes,
is part of that. Remember, nutrition is about 70%, fitness is about 30%, right? In terms of just your physiological, I'm not including your mental health, but your physiological health. Those are the two components, I would say 70-30, nutrition to exercise. And what happens oftentimes is that a lot of people try to substitute bad eating for exercising 5 to 6 times a week at the gym, which is it's so far off that people just don't understand. The area where I struggle with when I coach people is, when it comes to the 3 pillars is, how do I get these people to eat properly, right? And this is the biggest struggle. It's like, I tell people, if you don't have the energy, you don't have the energy to go out there and learn what you need to do. It's like, if you don't have the energy, how are you going to have the energy to go out to meet beautiful women, or whatever your sexual preference is, same sex, whatever it is? How are you going to go out there and meet your partner, right? How are you going to have the energy to go and learn a new skill, to upskill yourself so you could actually improve or get a promotion at work? How are you going to get the energy to improve your health even further if you're actually always fatigued and you want to quickly munch on some potato chips to get a quick dopamine hit, right? So and then there's this new drug called TikTok and IG where you kind of flip through like short-term videos, which is another dopamine hit. I got trapped in it. Right? I got trapped in it for about a year, and I didn't even know that it was actually hitting my dopamine until I started watching the videos. And this dopamine impact is another thing. This all comes down to discipline, like introspection and knowing how your body is affecting to certain things. So health is probably the number one thing that I would actually focus on to get everyone in a proper shape and improving your neuroplasticity through proper diet and nutrition. And then, of course, we can talk about supplements and peptides and, pro drugs and all that stuff that could actually, further enhance you, right? We could talk about red light therapies, all that stuff to actually improve your energy level, your mitochondrial function, so you can actually go out there and do what you need to do, right? And so let's talk about, like, again, health is important. And then the second thing that people have to focus on, right, is wealth, right? If you don't have people say if you don't have your life together, that essentially means having a certain goal in your life, a certain way to gain resources, which essentially means making money, right? And watching out your finances. Are you investing properly? Do you have a way to get promoted? Are you working on some entrepreneurship? How's that going? I mean, do you have a way to actually, build on those businesses? What are you doing about those, right? If you don't have those first two pillars intact, your relationship side of it is going to be incredibly very difficult to maintain, or even to build. Health is important. That is who you are. You are a bunch of cells and blood and hormones. If those are not working, you are a biological machine. If you are a factory, at the end of it, overall, you are a biological factory. If the factory is not working, how are you going to how are you going to come up with the output?
This is why, frankly speaking, when people are in a certain level of pain and they can point at a certain area of their life where perhaps it's very clear, look, I haven't been on a date in 8 years or something of that sort, they know something's wrong. But the same person, if we're to do a really clear audit of where their performance and overall game is in life, there'll be tons of energy leaks, there'll be tons of blocking factors. We're not the best version of ourselves, and it just often tends to show up in our relationships. But there's often so much work that needs to happen for us to elevate to that level and to be that version of ourselves.
Yes.
So the answer, if we're to have the mindset of let's actually really elevate and fix the core root issues, then it's going to have to be a quite wide-ranging solution that sees them elevate in all the core pillars. And in CMU, the work is very holistic and the work is very, very deep. We're doing it every single week with men, exploring every facet of their reality and finding out what's really keeping them stuck. And it is the common themes, but until you're really ready to take accountability and to face this and to do it in a structured way, in an environment where you frankly have other human beings who you feel safe and comfortable doing the work with, then it can be challenging for people, because what we've shared is a lot, but I think that the central message here has to be, this is a method, this is a system. This is, you are here, you're allowed to have these issues, but we can speak clearly about them and put you through a system and a process so you can progressively get better and get what you're looking for. So, Coach, I think to kind of wrap us up, there was a version of you who wasn't as enlightened on health, on the deeper psychology, on relationships, and all these sorts of things that once existed, be it almost a decade ago. But now you're in the position where you've gained a tremendous amount of knowledge and awareness, and you've been able to, alongside Dee, help tons and tons of men, which is great. Absolutely a massive resource, and we hope to continue to see you make impact.
Yeah,
but
so
if you were to kind of go back and speak to the version of you who was on the fence about these ideas, because now you've got a lot of clarity, but there was a version of you who wasn't sure. What would you say to the previous version of, not Coach Kai, but just Kai, who maybe doesn't quite understand how all of this big picture stuff comes into sorting his dating life?
The unfortunate thing for many people, and this is actually true for me as well, and I have a very stubborn personality. I think stubborn personality is kind of cut in two different ways, right? Which is that you are headstrong in terms of what you want to accomplish, and you're not going to let anything stop you. But at the same time, you also have a hard time accepting new information without you going through the personal experiences yourself. So the unfortunate truth for many men out there, and we're talking about masculinity, and I wanted to kind of touch on that because I spoke about, the core pillars, because that's actually important before we even get to the masculinity. What is masculinity from my perspective is, as a man, biologically, evolutionary wise, you've been equipped to go to war, to go, gather resources, right? You've been given the type of physiology, right, and the muscular and skeletal structure and even the hormonal structure to take on a lot more stress than the fairer sex, right? So which means that you have a lot more responsibility. Now, what's actually happened in the recent times is that I would say starting in the last 30 to 40 years, even if going back as far as 50 years, we've allowed men to become really, really whiny children, right? It's actually true. People victimize themselves. They're like, oh my God, look at me. I had a poor life, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm sorry. Do you want me to play you the world's smallest violin? It's like, what do you want from me? You're a man. You've been equipped. You've been given the genetics to be able to go handle your life in a proper way. If you're not willing to actually do the work, I'm sorry, world is going to leave you behind. No one is actually going to, be there to push you. This has to come from, you have to have a fire as a man. And the unfortunate thing is that I think because of societal pressures in the West, a lot of that fire that men usually are born with are being put out. Right? It's quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think that we have to find the gas and the gasoline to kind of reignite that fire so that, yes, people have problems. I could list my problems and someone else could list their problems. Everyone has 99 problems. You're not unique. No one is going to baby you, right? No one is going to be sitting here like worried about your problems, like, oh, poor you, right? I have my own stuff that I want to build. And if you want to build along with me and you want to improve and you have the willpower, as a man, you have to find the willpower to improve yourself. That's the only way to get through life, right? And especially in a very competitive world that we live right now, your masculinity as a man is much more important. Let's just look at some statistics. There are more women in the US going to university than men. Men are just opting out nowadays. Men are becoming absolute cowards. And this is not a good trend to actually have. Women have actually stepped up. So why are men not stepping up? Like, where is the stepping up from men nowadays, right? So you have to have even more fire to succeed, more in modern terms than anyone else. So you have to become a person who is geared towards self-improvement, and you want to be the guy who is going to win no matter what, right? Yes, there's going to be hindrances. I'm a guy who has had many, many hindrances. My health still plagues me, right? I literally can show you my sleep statistic. I sleep maybe 4 to 4.5 hours a day, and because I have a serious sleep problem. Despite that, I still could perform at work, right? Is it causing, is it because of a lot of willpower? Yes, right? You have to have the willpower no matter what type of problems that you have to be able to go out there. Have I had problems with dating? Am I still having problems with dating? It's like, yes, I do, right? Which modern men don't? Half of us get divorced. Most of us don't even get into relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The number of adult men who, have not had a sexual encounter in the past is actually on the increasing rise. So what do? Are you going to keep playing games, or are you going to just really pull out the pants and work on yourself?
No.
And I guarantee you, if you do work on yourself, okay, and please take it from me and others who've actually had success in this, you will get there. It might seem like it's going to take a long time. I mean, look, it's taken me a better part of a decade from start to finish to kind of get to a place where I'm comfortable with my life, right? And I started at a very much a deficit, right? I didn't even know I had health problems.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't even know that these things were actually interfering in my life. And I had to eventually discover them through, going through a lot of pain. So, and then I didn't know that I wasn't that great at speaking with people. I was in denial, and I had to kind of discover that and saying, hey, like, maybe I have to do something about this, right? Masculinity essentially means you are capable of taking charge of your life and doing no matter what it takes, not being a whiny little bitch, but taking whatever you actually have to do, whatever resources you could actually muster up to improve your life.
Yeah.
Right? So being able to face your fears is, I would say, one core pillar of what masculinity means.
Yeah. So, Coach, let's dive in on one of these things that you shared here, which was the predicament that modern man finds himself in, because I think this is going to be something that's going to resonate with a lot of men. It is a bit unusual that we're in this cultural context where men are not doing so great, and in fact, in some metrics, being outperformed by women. And if you look simultaneously, we've had, certainly in my lifetime, I'm 33 now, going to be 34 in a few months, massive empowerment of women and a cultural shift towards putting the spotlight on women's issues, which completely are valid and we completely support, of course. And you see the rise in ascendancy of women now competing very favourably in the workforce, in education, and having upped their game a lot. Now, of course, they've got their challenges and struggles. Of course, they've got their own relationship difficulties and health difficulties, and are also suffering in many ways too. But at the very same time, the demonization of men that's occurred over the last couple of decades is something that isn't benefiting either of the sexes, either of the genders. This is not helping either of us to be enemies, to be in combat with each other. And I think what's clearly happened is women have progressed because society has allowed their talents and abilities to be activated and has really allowed them to feel seen and heard and encouraged. And men have fallen behind a bit because, frankly, our culture's become a bit toxic towards them, and it's had an impact, right? So the movement, as you say, is going to be about us because institutions are not doing it for us. No one's coming to save us, right? Us finding the tools to be better. Us finding the drive to go in the places where the work's being done, improve our thinking, improve our methodologies, and get a better outcome. It is actually going to have to be guys like me and you and Dee who are stepping up and creating these groups and communities that are empowering men and saying, if you're serious, you can come here and we can really do the work together. Because whilst individual agency is a really important part in getting started and understanding, wait a minute, I've got a problem, okay? This is a team sport, and for example, you've spent 10 plus years working on this stuff. People can learn from you. You can contribute tons. I've spent 10 plus years in the trenches figuring this shit out too. You spent a decade. We've got things to contribute. So when we come together and create space and hold space for each other, we can really make a robust contribution, right? And actually help people get through this, which is what this is all about. It's for those who are action takers. So, Coach, to wrap this up, what is your one recommendation to the man who is out there, who's listened to this, who's kind of understanding, okay, Coach Kai's telling me I need to really work on my health and really take responsibility, and he's kind of ready to take some action. What's something practical you can give him to go away and do?
The practical thing is that you just have to want to improve. It's actually good to listen to these podcasts and be inspired. But it's like, what are you doing? Are you on Google searching for answers? Now we have this wonderful tool called ChatGPT that's better than Google that could actually help you. You have to ask by asking questions about what's happening out there, but it's also what's actually happening with you. Like, you have to be honest. See, men have a certain ego, right? And this is genetic, and there's nothing wrong with that. We always want to be the better, right? Better than other people. We want to be the best. That's okay. A competitive pressure is okay. But don't let that blind you into falsely thinking that you're better than other people, because someone is always going to be better than you, right? Someone out there always going to be better than you. Somebody's going to be always going to be able to run faster than you, think more deeply than you are, have more money, right? Somebody always going to be better than you. So what you have to do is that you have to have the willingness to say, I need to change something in my life. I'm not okay the way I am. My life, the way it's going, it's not okay, right? I want to do something about this, right? First thing I would do if I was a man right now trying to improve my life, I would literally go to ChatGPT. It's like, as a disenfranchised man, what can I do to improve myself? That's the first step that I would actually do. I would literally do that. That's the way I start my searches. Hey, I'm not able to sleep, which is a real problem that I have. What's going on with my physiology? And ChatGPT is going to give me about 30 different information. And each day I would sit through one of those information and try to dig a little bit deeper and see if there's something there, right? So you have to start your journey by taking the first step. And people say that, a journey of 1,000 miles start with the first step. And you have to take the first step, ask the right question. How do I improve myself? That is the first question you have to ask, and be willing to take any type of answer that comes your way, even if it hurts your feelings, right? So that's the first thing you want to do. Then you have to be willing to go down the rabbit hole. You're going to hit some dead ends. It's going to be like a maze. You're going to hit some dead ends, come back and go to another maze, come back. That's what I have done in my life to improve myself, is just asking the question, trying to see if there's other people who are talking about this, join that group and find out more answers, right? The best thing that you could do for yourself is find a coach who's already gone through this.
Exactly.
Right? Find a coach who's actually gone through this and gone through the struggle, and I've actually found some sort of a solution or framework to work through this. It is a very complex problem, and it's multifaceted. And if you're trying to do this yourself, it's going to take you 10 years. So you might as well take the shortcut and learn from guys who've already done it in 2 to 3 years. So you could cut the work down by 60 to 70%, if you just get a coach to actually help you. So this is why with coaching, you're able to move up a lot faster. I'm not saying that you can't discover this for yourself. You definitely can.
It'll take a while.
It will take a while, and you remember time is running out on your life. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
quicker you could actually do things, the more you think you could actually move on to. And I had someone who actually would guide me through this. Take the first step and ask a question. It's like, how do I improve myself? Just put that in ChatGPT. Do yourself a favor. Just put that in the ChatGPT. Look at all the answers, and then keep asking more questions. And then you're going to start hitting certain points that's going to resonate with you, because those resonating things with you is they're resonating because you're missing something in your life.
That's what's up, Coach. And for those who are interested in finding out more about Coach Kai, Coach D's in-person training, if you take that in New York, you will also be getting mentored by Coach Kai, and you'll also have the opportunity to speak to him. Thanks for watching. You've just heard what it really takes to rebuild yourself from the ground up. No tricks, no shortcuts, just truth, structure, and inner fire. If you're tired of half living and ready to become the man you're meant to be, go to the Calendly link in description and book your breakthrough call. CMU isn't for everyone, but if you're serious, we'll change your life.